The Sacramento Kings will have an all-star, a better record than the Los Angeles Lakers, and Mike Brown will win Coach of the Year. It's time for mild, hot, and spicy takes with Franklin Cartoscelli and Chris Watkins right here on the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season and all offseason today, presented by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer here in Sacramento for ABC 10. And last year, I decided to have Chris Watkins and Franklin Cartoscelli, both from Sacktown Sports 1140 Radio, my former co-workers and the hosts of the Return of the Roar podcast, decided to have them on before the season started for a fun podcast where we each brought to the table some mild, hot, and spicy Sacramento Kings takes for the season. What ended up happening was I ended up using most of my takes from that in a compilation later on in the season to make myself look like an idiot because, of course, the Sacramento Kings last year were a colossal failure and made us all look dumb, those of us who at least were believers before the season started. So I thought, you know what? Why not do it again? Frankie Cartoscelli and Chris Watkins back here with me on Locked On Kings today for more mild, hot, and spicy takes. But before we get to that, oh yeah, the Sacramento Kings played a basketball game tonight. Or I guess we could call that a basketball game, what they did against the third stringers of the Phoenix Suns. Half the roster, basically anybody who plays consistently on the Phoenix Suns, was out because of rest in this game. And the Sacramento Kings did play their starters. They changed their starting lineup in a way that I did not necessarily expect. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about Okpala moving out of the starting lineup recently, and I guess Mike Brown somewhat, kind of, sort of listened. Okpala did not start in this game. In fact, Okpala did not play in this game. Trey Lyles started in his place and struggled over 20 minutes. Shot 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from three-point range, only 2 rebounds, 1 assist, a couple of turnovers. Did not look the best. I wonder, had Keegan Murray played, he was out with a non-COVID related illness, did not travel with the team. Neither did Rashawn Holmes. Had Keegan been available, would he have started in this game? Would the Kings have looked significantly better and got off to a much better start offensively had Keegan started? Those are questions that we don't necessarily know. This was a tough watch. It was a long game because of the amount of foul calls by the officiating crew, or who are, I guess, gearing up for their regular season as well. But the Kings ended up winning the game, 105-104, the final score. An ugly win, but it's a win nonetheless. The Kings are now 3-0 in preseason. Remember, the Kings went undefeated in preseason last year, so it doesn't mean anything, of course, although it's nice to see when you open like ESPN or NBA.com and you look at the standings, you see Sacramento at 3-0. Hey, it feels pretty good. It's at least nice to look at, and hopefully the Kings will actually be able to replicate that when it counts. Only a couple really big things that I want to talk about in regards to this game, because there wasn't a whole lot to pull away from it. I wish in games like this, where Sacramento as a whole is struggling, and especially when you're taking on a team that is resting as many players as the Phoenix Suns are resting. And remember, last season, the Kings had a horrendous time taking on players who are without their, or teams rather, who are without their star players. Like, for some reason, if a team came into Sacramento, or the Kings played a team that was missing their go-to scorer or scorers, they were almost guaranteed to lose that game. No idea why. Maybe the Kings just weren't mentally ready, and it looked like we were going to get a little bit of the same dose of that medicine here in this game. I will say, though, games like this are a opportunity for players, especially in the Phoenix Suns situation. This is the end of the bench. These are the guys that are fighting for a roster spot or a rotational spot that got opportunities, big minutes in this game. And they made the most of that opportunity, right? They came out, they played hard. They played with a chip on their shoulder. It reminds me of, I just watched the 38 in the Garden documentary, and it's about Jeremy Lin and what he was able to do during Linsanity. And it reminded me that players chomp at the bit for their opportunity, chomp at the bit for their chance. And when they get that chance, especially if they have nothing to lose, they're going to give it their all. And that's sometimes where the diamonds are made, right? I'm not saying that there was a Jeremy Lin in this game for the Phoenix Suns. I'm not saying any diamonds were made, although Washington did have 31 points in 39 minutes, Dwayne Washington Jr. My point is, when these guys get these opportunities, they're going to play hard. They're going to fight because there might not be another opportunity after this. That's kind of how they have to think, how they have to play sometimes. So it doesn't surprise me that the Suns were playing overall harder than the Sacramento Kings, at least out of the gate, or so I thought. That being said, it's times like this when the Kings are struggling and they're taking on a team that is inferior that I want to see De'Aaron Fox, specifically Domantas Sabonis too, is the second best player on this Kings team. But these are really when I want to see the Kings stars take over. Like, how many times have we seen the Kings over the course of this playoff drought be in the lead or stick around, hang around against a really good team, and then you get to like that point in the game where the star, the Steph Curry, the LeBron, just says enough is enough. Like, I'm taking over. I'm putting this team down. Like, I'm gonna do it myself. I need to see that from De'Aaron or Domantas Sabonis. I would have liked to see that in these games, and they just weren't that. The Kings as a whole struggled in this game. It wasn't on any one guy, and I'm certainly not going to blame De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis for the team struggling, but I needed more than, 15 points in 22 minutes is not bad for De'Aaron Fox, but 5 of 14 from the field, not great. He went 0 of 3 from three-point range in this game after going 3 of 3 against the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I didn't expect the Kings to repeat the shooting performance that they had against Portland, but I just wanted to see more out of the stars when the rest of the team is struggling. That is when the stars are going to need to put the team on their back. Yes, De'Aaron and Sabonis can get away because of the depth on this team. At times, they can get away with not playing their best. The Kings no longer have to have a perfect night from Fox to win consistently, at least in my opinion. But there are going to be nights like this where you're not getting enough out of everybody, or maybe you're shorthanded, like you're without Keegan Murray and Rashawn Holmes, two very important pieces off your bench. You need to step up in those moments. You need to be the guy to carry them through. And I just didn't see that enough tonight. Domantas Sabonis had 9 points, 4 of 10 shooting from the field in 23 minutes, did have 10 rebounds, so flirted with a double-double. Fine, but not enough for my stars in this moment. Again, preseason game, not going to overreact too much. That was the main thing I took away from this. Also, Kevin Huerter got off to a good start offensively. He was one of the only ones to do so. He had 13 points on 3 of 6 shooting, 3 of 5 from three-point range. I'm a big fan of Kevin Huerter. Like, I just really, really like what Kevin Huerter brings. He's versatile. Defensively, he hasn't done anything that makes me go, wow. He also hasn't done anything that makes me go, yikes. The team as a whole, Kevin included, they're struggling to defend without fouling. Mike Brown has pointed that out a couple of times. They sent the Phoenix Suns to the foul line 29 times tonight, although the Kings got to the foul line. They sent the Suns to the line 35 times tonight, and the Kings got to the foul line 29 times. So a lot of fouls called, period, in this game, but sending an opposing team to the foul line 35 times. The Suns had 31 of their 104 points from the free throw line. Meanwhile, the Kings shot 65%, only 19 of 29 from the foul line. That needs to improve as well. But I like what I'm seeing out of Kevin Huerter. I like what I'm seeing out of the combination of Davion Mitchell and Malik Monk off the bench, although Monk struggled in this game, just 5 points in 20 minutes on 2 of 9 shooting. I think Kevin Huerter starting is the absolute right choice, and I'm glad that's going forward. And it's going to be interesting once we actually get into real rotations and like real NBA games, what the minutes distribution looks like between Huerter and Monk, because I could see games where Monk has more than Huerter. I could see games where Huerter has more than Monk, and then I could see games where they're almost to the exact same, like 24 and 24 or something like that. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what the rotations look like there. But big fan of Kevin Huerter. Wanted to see more out of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in a game like this. And those are really the only takeaways that I have from this rough, long watch of a game. I'm sorry for Phoenix Suns fans and any Kings fans that were actually at the game having to watch that. Wasn't entertaining, to say the least. The best part of it was that because there was no broadcast of the game, we got to listen to G-Man Gary Gerald on the call with the Kings stream of the game, which I was very thankful for that. But even at times, G-Man was looking at his watch going, how long has this first quarter been? The first quarter was like 45 to 50 minutes long. It's ridiculous. Anyway, enough of that. Enough about the game. Let's have some fun. Mild, hot, and spicy Kings takes. I've got 3. Frankie Cartoscelli has 3. Chris Watkins has 3, and we want to hear your mild, hot, and spicy takes. So send them to us at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Drop them in the comment section down below and enjoy the 3 of us back together, Locked On Kings and Return of the Roar, collabing for mild, hot, and spicy takes. This time last year, we recorded a mild, hot, spicy take podcast that ended up just being compiled into a 3-minute video of terrible takes of mine over the course of the year. So you know what? We're doing it again. Matt George, Frankie Cartoscelli, Chris Watkins, the Locked On Kings and Return of the Roar podcast coming together for mild, hot, and spicy takes. Gentlemen, this year has to go better, please. For my sanity, let's let it go better.
Yeah, I remember you releasing that montage of bad takes, and I was like, man, Matt is one of a kind, man. Could not be me, but I'm glad to add to the content. I think this should be fun, and I'm curious how spicy these things get.
Yeah, what do you have cooked up for us this year, Matt? I'm just wanting to see what you have in store.
I think I'm pretty tame this year. I think I learned my lesson a little bit, but maybe not. Like, because last year I think I went a little overboard, especially with how that roster turned out to be. I think all 3 of us are very optimistic about this roster at this point in time, based off of a couple of blowout preseason games and everything going on, Mike Brown and things like that. But of course, we haven't seen this team really face adversity yet, so we could all be wrong again. But let's start it off in the mild category, and I guess I'll kick it off. And I'm kicking it off in a very true to form way, a very true to the brand way this offseason. That's why I'm putting this in mild, and it feels pretty mild to me. Keegan Murray, Rookie of the Year. That's my mild take to start. I really do believe that Keegan Murray is going to win Rookie of the Year. I think it's between he and Paolo Banchero. I think Paolo's going to ultimately put up better numbers than Keegan, which might ultimately give him the edge. But Orlando's not going to be a good team. I think Keegan Murray is going to put up really good numbers, solid numbers on a team that does finally make the postseason and have a great turnaround. So Keegan Murray, Rookie of the Year, that is my pick.
I think that's solid.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to durability and availability. I think if Paolo Banchero, we saw at Duke, he's a big cramping issue, he's a big sweater, and that kind of results in cramps, and that's kind of an issue with him in college. So we'll see how that pans out. But Keegan Murray has a little sickness right now, but as far as his durability, he's been available in college, and I think I agree, Matt. I think if it comes down to those 2, it's going to come to who's on the floor more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like you said, it's going to end up coming down to Banchero and Keegan, it seems. But I think with the winning and is it too early to presume that Keegan will probably have 60-plus starts under his belt by the end of the year? If the Kings are a play-in or playoff team, it would be really hard to deny Keegan if he's up at 14 or so a game, shooting good percentages from 3. I think overall the biggest hurdle for Keegan will be the team success. If Keegan is still on a losing team and putting up decent numbers, but again, Paolo's getting better numbers, they're probably just going to give the edge to him.
Brendan Nunez asked all of us, we got together at the Golden One Center for the Kings' first preseason game against Portland earlier this week, and he asked all of us who we thought the 3rd leading scorer on this Kings team was going to be, assuming Fox and Sabonis were 1 and 2. Keegan Murray was my pick for number 3. Who, if it's not one of your hot and spicy takes, who was at that 3rd spot for you guys?
Mine is my spicy take. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? So we'll pass on it. We'll save it then. But Keegan Murray was my pick to be the 3rd leading scorer. Frankie, when Chris reveals, you can go ahead and jump in on that too.
Okay. We might have the same one. We'll see. But Keegan's your 3rd. I thought you disagreed with us when we were in the media dining room. Didn't you disagree with us?
No, I liked Keegan at 3. I also thought Malik Monk had a chance at 3 as well. But Keegan Murray was my 3rd. But all right, Chris, let's go to you for your mild take then. Start us off with a little bit of singe.
Yeah, first off, I just want to acknowledge that these are all Taco Bell, hot sauce packet flavors, which if this is an unofficial or an official sponsored Taco Bell podcast, I would definitely like some form of, payment. From
Crunchwrap coupon.
Ooh, free. Hey, the Mexican pizza's back. As we know, De'Aaron Fox and co and family are big fans. I am not not above taking free Mexican pizza. Absolutely not. My mild take is kind of in the same vein as Matt, where it's like you say it and it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But also there is like some opposition to it. The Kings will have at least one All-Star, and I'm going to put it at one All-Star this season. It kind of goes hand in hand with the same argument that I was just making for Keegan, where it's incredibly dependent on team success and, and the national media really recognizing that the Kings are too good to deny them having somebody represented at All-Star Weekend. I'm not ready to put my stamp on whether it's going to be De'Aaron or Sabonis. Obviously, Sabonis has 2 previous All-Star appearances in the Eastern Conference. That might play an effect into, we've already given it to him. He's already the proven All-Star. Let's give it to him. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox has not made the All-Star game. That's his whole separate set of debate that you can throw in there. But I think one of either Fox or Sabonis will make the All-Star team this season.
I feel like, and Frankie, maybe you agree or disagree with this, I feel like Sabonis's route is both easier and more likely compared to Fox's. Not that Fox is not going to be the best player on this team, but the fact that being a guard in the Western Conference versus being a big in the Western Conference, I think Sabonis has a significantly bigger window of making an All-Star game than De'Aaron Fox does. And I've been thinking a lot about this. There's a very realistic scenario where the Kings finally do have an All-Star, but it's not De'Aaron. It's Sabonis just simply because of the amount of amazingly talented guards in the league.
It's a great point.
Yeah, I do think that Sabonis has a leg up too because he's been there before. He's a 2-time All-Star. It's funny, Chris. That's actually one of my spicy takes. That one of Fox or Sabonis is an All-Star.
That's all right.
Just because
not everyone has the same heat levels. Some people will have a mild sauce, and they'll be like, that was pretty spicy to me.
I'm weak. I'm weak with the hot stuff. So I put that in my spicy because I just feel like it's been hard for the Kings to get All-Star nods. I mean, obviously, DeMarcus Cousins is the only All-Star the Kings have had since Brad Miller made it in 2004, I think, 2005. So it's gonna, again, kind of like the Keegan Murray Rookie of the Year take. It's gonna be totally dependent on the Kings win-loss record, in my opinion. The De'Aaron Fox aspect of that is like you said, Matt, tougher because the guards in the Western Conference is so loaded. So yeah, Sabonis has a leg up in that. And I think if I had to choose between the two, I think it's more likely it's Sabonis. But I think no matter what, it's going to be hard for the Kings to get an All-Star because they're going to have to be at least competitive. And I'm talking either 500 or above 500.
Frankie's going to have to come up with another spicy, but what about a mild, Frankie? What do you got for us on the mild category?
Oh, it's pretty mild. Again, I'm pretty mild or pretty weak with the hot stuff.
It's just ketchup.
Just ketchup. God. I guess I can say both because they're rapid fire and they're both pretty believable. One is the Kings will win the season series against the Lakers. I told you last year, I don't know if you were on the podcast with us, Matt, when that conversation took place. I think it might have been Brendan, but I'm not big on the Lakers. I wasn't big on them last year. I'm definitely not big on them this year. Not because the Kings beat them by 30 in preseason, just because I feel like they do not have a deep roster. I just do not like it. They're one LeBron or AD injury away from being a bottom tier team in the West. So that's one that's almost not even mild at all. It's kind of like, I don't know, like barbecue sauce. I wouldn't even call it like a hot sauce. And then I'll say De'Aaron Fox averages more than 24 points per game. I think that I don't think he's quite going to be like a career high, maybe flirting with 30. I think there's a lot of good options on this team as far as it comes to scoring the basketball, but I think he's going to be scoring at a high level. He's going to be scoring in a bunch of different ways. And it won't be a career high because I think he's going to be able to have kind of some of the load taken off his shoulders. You have Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, Sabonis for a full season. We could see his assist numbers go up, but I still think he's going to be scoring the ball at a high rate.
You know what's funny about that, Chris, is I could even see that number being lower and the Sacramento Kings being better. That's one of the things that's jumped off the page to me out of these couple of preseason games is the Kings do have so many weapons that they can score with that it's not just so reliant on De'Aaron anymore. Now, there are going to be nights where the Kings literally need De'Aaron to drag them. And when it comes to crunch time in a close game, I imagine De'Aaron's going to have the ball in his hands over anybody else. But I like that sweet spot number that Frankie put at 24, because I think that's right where he's going to be hovering around. And if he's averaging 24 a game, I think this Kings team is doing really well.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I I think it's going to be tough for him to go over 24. I think last season he ended up at 24 a game. I think he averaged 25 the season before. But to Frankie's point, I think that there's just honestly just more talent than he's ever had before, that he's ever played before. And so naturally he's going to disperse the scoring out. And Matt, also to your point, I think it's possible that De'Aaron Fox doesn't hit that number, but the team is still better. I think there's no reason why. I mean, it's really tough. The spirit of Brendan's question, really, of who will be the third highest scorer on the team, is there are so many different options for that. There's really not a wrong choice, and I'm going to get to that in my spicy take. But there's just so many people who have the possibility of getting better and scoring more on this team that it's really not a team that you see built nowadays. It's really going to be a collective effort, and it's really exciting to see who on this offense will surprise us, honestly.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by PrizePicks. To me, the number one way to play daily fantasy. In fact, at least with basketball, it is the absolute only way I will play daily fantasy. It's different, it's fresh, it's unique, and it's winnable. It's the way it works, you pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, depending upon what you choose, you win. You can win up to 10 times your money. So for example, let's say I pick De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Malik Monk. And let's say the over-under for the combination of the 3 of them is 40 points. Or 40 and a half points. I take the over, they combine to score 45. I put $100 down. Depending upon my odds, maybe I get $150 back or I get $100 back. Regardless, it is the best way to play. You're not playing against anybody else. You don't have to worry about drafts. You don't have to worry about managing lineups and all the kind of daily grind work that comes with at least basketball and NBA fantasy sports. You're not playing against any sharks either, like you'll see on other sites. You are just playing against the PrizePicks odds and the PrizePicks lines, and they're always fair. Plus, we have a great deal for you with PrizePicks right now. If you are a first-time listener, you download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up. You use promo code LOCKEDON. You can receive 100% instant deposit up to $100, meaning you deposit $100, you get $100 back. You deposit $50, you get $50 back. Don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100 and play daily fantasy the way it was meant to be played. All right, we're snake drafting this like it's fantasy, Frankie. You're back again, this time with a hot take for us.
Okay, I have Domantas Sabonis. His career high in assists per game is 6.7. I don't think he's going to get to 6.7 or be a 7, like a Jokic kind of assist guy, but I think he's going to flirt with it. I think he's going to be above six assists per game. So, like, not a career high, but I'd say 6.1, 6.2, sure. I just think that there are so many scoring options on the Kings that he's going to be distributing the basketball unlike we've ever seen a Kings big do, like maybe Vlade Divac. I mean, I don't know if he ever hit the 7 assist mark, but I think that this is going to be a team that has a lot of weapons, and I think Sabonis is going to be flirting with that 6.7 number. Not crossing. I'm not ready to say that. That'd be pretty spicy. This is just hot. So
I think he might be able to cross it just because of the amount of shot makers that are on this roster. Like, and we saw in the Portland game, like in the first 5 or 6 possessions of the game, the ball was running through Sabonis, and it was a lot of handoffs to guards on the wings. Of course, he had that great 1-2 connection with De'Aaron Fox with the alley-oop, the pick and roll with Davion Mitchell that resulted in his dunk. It wasn't until Fox was out of the game that Sabonis really started looking to score. So if the Kings get off to a hot start like they did in that Portland game and the ball's running through Sabonis, you could have 4 assists by the end of the first quarter.
I mean, I'm telling you, we're going to be a little surprised, I think, by the assist numbers. This team as a whole, really, in general. I mean, we saw it in preseason again. Take it with a grain of salt, preseason, but this isn't last year's roster as far as ball movement goes. I mean, they have a lot of players that the ball will not stick with. So I'm feeling confident in that number. I think 6 is attainable for Sabonis.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, I'm going to switch my spicy with my hot, and I'm just going to let you guys know right now that my spicy take was Sabonis will be the 3rd highest scorer on this team, but first in assists. I really, really think that this is going to be, like you said, Matt, this offense is going to run through Domantas Sabonis. And he is just like an elite level playmaker out of the post. I'm expecting like baby Jokic numbers from him this season. You know, I said he'll be the 3rd highest scorer. Part of that is I think Harrison Barnes is going to have a very, very big year, contract year here. probably looking for his last payday. I've been on it all summer. I'm going to keep harping on it. I think that there's possibility that it's not because Domantas Sabonis got worse, but again, because the talent around him is so good and he draws so much attention, and he's such a willing passer that I'm willing to say he's going to probably set a career high in assists for a season this season, or this year, I should say. And I expect him to be near 7 or 8 assists a game this year, which is an absolutely astronomical number for a big. But again, just with the amount of time that they're going to give him the ball in his hands and with the amount of shooting that is just constantly surrounding him, I don't think it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, everybody says take preseason with a grain of salt. And of course you should, but there are some things that really you should take seriously. And to me, taking 34 assists in the second game of this new group together, that should be taken seriously. That should jump off the page to people. The fact that, I mean, granted, it was a night where everybody was hitting shots, but even so, it wasn't like the Kings were supernova hot from three like we've seen before. Like they still made 21 threes, whatever it was, and the ball was moving really, really well, but it looked repeatable. I think that's the big thing for me. When the Kings get hot in the past, it's like, okay, everybody's scorching hot. This is not repeatable. The Portland game with 34 assists looked repeatable. So that's why I don't just blow it off as preseason, Frankie.
No, I mean, again, it's kind of, those are the kind of things I think you can look at in preseason and feel good about and feel confident they'll carry over, because ball movement is contagious. You hear that all around the NBA. Ball movement is contagious, and the Kings have needed that for a long time. And we've seen it since, I'd say, the early 2010s with the ball sticking in one place. DeMarcus Cousins, love to watch him play. I went to so many games in high school and watched him on TV. We love just watching the ball go in the post, let everybody clear it, let him do his thing. Rudy Gay, another guy who kind of did his own thing on offense. But now we have moved into this kind of phase of the Kings basketball where ball movement kind of is like a callback to the early 2000s teams. Maybe you should try to take a page out of that book. Ball movement, the cohesiveness of it all, it's going to be huge. So, no, I say take it with the grain of salt because it's preseason, because I want to kind of like temper my own expectations. But it's expectation time, and it's a time where the hopes can be dashed. And I think with ball movement, though, it's a little different. I think that the Kings have a lot of good playmakers on the team.
So I'm going to throw out my original hot take, and then I'm going to throw out a backup hot take, because my original kind of builds off of one of the things Frankie said. Frankie, my original hot take is that the Sacramento Kings are going to finish with a better record and therefore higher in the standings than the Los Angeles Lakers. I honestly think that team is so reliant on not just one, but two of those three. Because even last year, like, LeBron had a phenomenal season. That team was duty. And I think the Sacramento Kings are going to be significantly better. So if AD and LeBron aren't having a good season, or Russ kind of revives his career a little bit and LeBron have a good season, I don't think they're better than the Sacramento Kings. So I think I think it's a hot take, but I think the Sacramento Kings are going to ultimately finish, whether it's in the playoffs or play in, which it would kind of be cool to have a Kings and Lakers play-in game, especially if it was in Sacramento. But I think the Kings will finish higher in the standings in the Western Conference than the Los Angeles Lakers this year.
Same brainwave. I mean, I completely agree. Like
Chris,
I said,
are we
more things need to go right.
Lakers? Are we disrespecting?
No, not at all. I don't think so at all. I mean, this team is quite literally Anthony Davis, LeBron James deep. And besides that, it's honestly a hyper uncompetitive roster. I mean, Patrick Beverley is a really good piece for a playoff team, for a team that has a lot of other things going on for them. Frankly, I think that they're going to ask Patrick Beverley to do too much. And that's not where you want to be as an organization. Obviously, the Russell Westbrook situation is incredibly it seems to be fluid, whether he's even going to be on the roster for a majority of the season. We'll have to see if Buddy Hield potentially ends up being a Laker, Miles Turner, that kind of might change the equation a little bit. But, even then, I still firmly believe that this Kings team can be surprisingly high in the standings at the end of the season.
Okay, so here's my real hot take, and we'll bounce through this real quick before we go to spicy. I think Harrison Barnes will re-sign with the Sacramento Kings this next offseason. I think that, and I've talked about this a lot on Locked On Kings this year. I think the Kings are kind of going into this year with the gamble that they're going to have a good enough season that Harrison is going to want to stick around and be a part of it. I don't know any Harrison Barnes trade that won that position and improves this team. So I think Harrison Barnes will make it through the year as a Sacramento King. They'll go into next offseason, and Harrison will want to re-sign with Sacramento and will return to Sacramento to be a part of hopefully a proverbial playoff team as they're starting 3-4, maybe even backup 3-4, depending upon how this season goes.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I was in the camp of I hope the Kings could reach an extension with HB, but I think it's his right to wait and see how the year pans out and see if the Kings are going to be a playoff contender. Because I mean, he does have one more probably payday ahead of him. This is probably his last time to become a free agent in his prime and kind of secure that multi-year deal. So I'm all for that, man. I would love it if the Kings could keep HB. He's a guy that's a good locker room presence. He's someone who what you're going to get. You can pencil him in for 14, 15 points and 5 rebounds. In solid 3-point shooting. He just is a guy I think that you want as a part of your playoff run. And it's something I think the Kings will look very, very hard at once that time comes. And I think it would take a total blow up, like devastating season ending injuries to, I won't say names, but you guys can get an idea, for the Kings to go into a direction where they're going to move Harrison Barnes. Because right now I think there's no chance that they trade him.
Yeah, I agree. I think you bring up a great point in saying that you really can't get – if you were to move Harrison, you're not going to get anything of better value or of better use to you. And I think Harrison is like a real anchor for this team in both a positive and a negative. I think he makes this team solid. He solidifies it. He makes it so he's just so switchable and versatile in his position and in his play that you can really throw him anywhere and feel pretty confident that he's going to do a good job. However, also in a negative, I think kind of like what you saw in Golden State, in his Golden State stint, where it's like you see him and you're like, I know I can upgrade at that position. I know it gets better than Harrison Barnes. But at the same time, to your earlier point, it gets a lot worse than Harrison Barnes as well. So you're kind of stuck in limbo with him. I think, again, like you're not going to get a better piece than him. Even if you let him walk, you're not just going to easily replace him. So I'm okay with it for a certain extent of time, but like, I don't know if I want to lock Harrison down to a 3 or 4 year contract. Maybe if we can keep maybe pushing it down the line 1 year or something like that, that would be something that I'd be more in favor for, but I can absolutely see it. I mean, there's not really, like I said, there's not really a better option for the team to pursue. And so I think if they want to go into next season and kind of carry the momentum, hopefully that happens from this season, I think it's the first thing that they're going to check off their list.
I gave out back-to-back hot takes. So, Chris, why don't you lead us off in the spicy?
Yes. So as I said, I swapped my spicy and my hot, but I with thinking about it more, I guess this really is a spicier take, especially with what you guys were just talking about with the Lakers. I think the Kings will finish either as a 7 or an 8 seed. And that means there's kind of 8 solidified playoff teams already, not including the Kings. I have Golden State, the Clippers, in no particular order, the Nuggets, Minnesota, Memphis, New Orleans, Dallas, Phoenix. That's already 8 teams. Mm-hmm. The Kings, the Lakers, and the Blazers are kind of fighting for 2 spots in the last 2 play-in spots. I think that there's a real possibility that one of those teams, whether it be, God forbid, injuries to a major player, just things not going to plan, maybe the Kings just flat out being better than what we all anticipate. I think the Kings have room to sneak into that 7 or 8 spot, and it really shouldn't surprise people as much as it kind of seems like it would be surprising. Like, this is a very, very good roster. This is built about 8 players deep. There's not many teams that go that deep. I mean, specifically, you look at Dallas, that team is Luka Doncic deep, and that's about it. I mean, their big acquisition over the summer was Christian Wood. He's not even in their starting lineup. They lost Jalen Brunson, which is a huge piece. So again, like if a player like, again, knock on wood, I'm not wishing for this, but if Luka goes down or, Chris Paul or Devin Booker go down, like that is something that I think the Kings are weirdly, I say weirdly because we're not usually in this position, but they can afford, if again, knock on wood, if De'Aaron Fox goes down, Davion Mitchell is not, some huge drop off, or, Harrison Barnes goes down. You have Keegan Murray to throw in. You have KZ Okpala. Domantas Sabonis goes down. You have Rashawn Holmes, who's been a proven starter. Like, this team is ready for some adversity, at least on the floor. It'll be definitely like the mental side of things that could hold them back. But I think that it's not insane to think that this team could finish as as a higher end play-in team, if you will.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Chris, with the depth of this roster too. We're not wishing I don't know how well the Kings could survive a long-term Fox or Sabonis injury, but the little bangs and bruises that they've gone through over the course of their career, like Fox plays hurt all the time. So Fox needs to take a game or two for injury purposes, or Sabonis needs to take a game or two with an ankle tweak or whatever. Sacramento, that's not just a penciled in loss. I think they might actually be able to survive that. But that 7 and 8 spot, Frankie, that's that sweet spot because that guarantees you at a home game in the play-in. Even if you're 8, you lose the first one to 7, then you're hosting the second one to the winner between 9 and 10. So I mean, if I get postseason basketball in the Golden One Center, I'm a happy camper.
Can you imagine? All I can say is, can you imagine?
Shut down the city.
A 1-game playoff against the Lakers. I mean, oh my goodness.
We would all have to take the day off, right? I mean,
100%.
like just across the city, like there's no way anyone could do anything then.
It'd be a madhouse. It'd be a madhouse. It's basically like a game 7. Like it essentially is. It's just it'd be the first like elimination game in Sacramento since probably game 7 of 2002. Like I guess they were facing elimination in 2004, but I mean still it would be unlike anything we've ever seen.
I will also be terrified knowing that the Kings have to win one game and it's LeBron James they're lining up against. Even if the rest of the Lakers roster is literally limping into that game, game 7, LeBron might score 100 himself on the Kings. It's a very
good point.
All right, Frankie, hit us with the spice.
All right, spicy. This isn't even that spicy. I mean, I have in here the Kings are making the play. The Kings are making the play. I mean, this is kind of mirroring my real life here. Like I get regular Buffalo.
Frank's crazy.
Chris knows I get regular Buffalo like at wing places. I don't branch out that much. I'm a baby with the spices. The Kings did bring in a couple of good 3-point shooters this offseason. They brought in Kevin Huerter. They brought in Malik Monk. They have Harrison Barnes, who was probably their best 3-point shooter last year after the Buddy Hield, Tyrese Haliburton trade. But I think Keegan Murray will lead the Kings in 3-point field goals this season. I think he will be their top 3-point threat this year. That's just what I think.
I like that. I actually like that because I mean he's really shown to favor that 3-point shot. He's shown to move really, really well on the perimeter already. He and Domantas Sabonis had a really good connection for a corner 3 in the Portland game. And if he does play with the two of them as much as I think he's going to play with the two of them because they demand so much attention inside of the arc, I mean, Keegan might lead in both makes and attempts with the amount of opportunities I think he's going to get on the perimeter.
Yeah. I think that he's not shy. He's not shy with the basketball. Let's just say that. Sorry, Chris, go on.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure in the Phoenix preseason game, if they play Phoenix today, in the Portland preseason game, Keegan was 5 of 6 from the field, 5 of 6 from 3. So I think it's a great shout. Matt, you pointed it out. He's really hunting that 3-point shot. I think, honestly, I mean, Keegan is a 3-point shooter. Like, to your point, he hunts that thing like crazy. There were multiple 10 3-pointer games that he had at Iowa. And, further elaborating on the other guys, like Kevin Huerter has a disgusting mid-range game that he looks for 2 to 3 times a game. He's not just hunting threes. Malik Monk is somebody who we've seen attack the rim at reckless abandon, emphasis on reckless. I think Keegan's going to have the most opportunity to get it. And he has been, I feel like I have not seen him miss an open look maybe since he's been here. I really don't think every time he shoots it, it feels like it's going in, and it just has. Maybe that won't last forever, but this guy is just an absolute bucket and not really something that we've seen here in a long time.
To wrap this up, I think I might have gone a little too hot with the spice, too heavy with the spice.
Here it is.
And what I really want to discuss with the two of you is what has to happen, how good the Sacramento Kings have to be for this to happen. Mike Brown wins Coach of the Year. Like this team has to have a significant turnaround. We're talking probably a top 6 seed.
That's what I was going to say. No play-in. They have to make the actual playoffs out the gate. That's what I think. I mean, I like it. I mean, I like it though.
Because the narrative so far through training camp has been so driven around Mike Brown. Like we just heard Malik Monk talk about the cohesiveness of the group and give the credit to Mike Brown. We've heard accountability, words that we've been wanting to hear for a long time in Sacramento. We've seen it in action from Brown. He already has this great reputation and personality around the league coming from the Golden State Warriors organization and all the success there. Like, it's definitely spicy because of the team that he coaches, but the idea of Mike Brown winning Coach of the Year is not unfathomable.
No, not at all. I just think, like you said, though, it's going to take a big. I mean, there's an argument if they win 40, if the West is tough and there's a 43, 44 win season needed to be like a top 7 or 8 seed, maybe there's an argument there. But if they win 38 games and make the 9-10, I don't think he's going to win Coach of the Year. But 40 plus wins and a top 7, top 8, maybe there's an argument. I think as far as the Kings, and if the league voters appreciate the history of how bad the Kings have been for 2 decades, maybe they'll get a little love.
Yeah, I think he's really in contention for it for sure. I mean, he's probably going to go against. I honestly don't know the name of the Celtics coach, but generally it goes to people who don't have a narrative going into the season. Like Nick Nurse isn't going to probably, unless the Raptors are like a top 3 seed. Nick Nurse, who probably is the best coach in the NBA, like he's not going to win Coach of the Year. Maybe if New Orleans has a good season, Willie Green might win Coach of the Year. But absolutely, I mean, the Kings, if they play well, are going to be the story of the NBA season. People are going to be talking about them breaking the playoff drought, how big it is, how big of a hurdle it is, and how many coaches have tried and failed. And if Mike Brown can come in season 1, change the culture, change the narrative around the team, because really all awards are narrative awards. And so if you can get the narrative behind you, if you can get the public behind you, absolutely. I think Mike Brown's going to have some steam. Again, kind of the theme of this podcast, if the team plays well.
Building off of what Chris said too, I think, Frankie, honestly, it takes 50 plus wins for this to even be possible, which I think is at the absolute cap peak of how good this Kings team can be. But I also think what might need to happen, and then again, we're talking about absolute cap peak here, is the Kings being a top 10 defense. Like, if Mike Brown can find a way to turn this Sacramento Kings franchise into a top 10 defense, again, 10 is probably as good as it could possibly get, and that feels like the biggest stretch on the planet at this point in time. I feel gross even saying that. Like, I thought 15 was going to be the absolute best of the best, but if Mike Brown, this team is number 1 in defense so far through 2 preseason games. Outlier. But, like, top 10 in defense, Mike Brown is immediately in the conversation regardless of the win total, because I think the win total's high because of that alone.
Yeah, the Kings haven't had a top 20 defense since the playoff drought started. So I think that hoping for top 15 is something that could maybe get it done. I think that it's realistic too, because Mike Brown, every team he's ever coached has been a top, I believe, 15 or more. I think 90% of the teams he's coached have been top 15 in defense. A lot of those in the top 10. So I don't know if we're going to be top 10. That'd be fantastic if the Kings are top 10, but top 15, the track record says it's going to be doable. And again, it is Mike Brown who led those Golden State Warriors teams. He turned decent defenders into good defenders. So, and good defenders into great defenders. So we'll see what he can do with this Kings team and see if the guys buy in. But yeah, like Chris said too, it's going to come down to the W's and the L's, where they're going to stand in the standings. So we'll see.
Huge thank you to Frankie and Chris for joining me on the Locked On Kings podcast today. Again, send in your mild, hot, or spicy takes. I know you got some out there, and feel free to respond to ours too. Some of ours might be too extreme. Some of ours maybe not hot or mild or spicy enough for you. Let's talk about them. Let's have some fun with this. Coming up on the next episode of Locked On Kings, Kyle Draper, Sacramento Kings play-by-play broadcaster and TV pre- and post-game host. Kyle Draper is going to join me here on Locked On Kings. We'll preview the season together, talk about the offseason as a whole, get his thoughts. He is actually inside the practice facility watching all of practice. Media, we just get the very end. Kyle was in there for the whole practice. I'm sure he's not going to reveal any secrets, but he'll get to he'll at least tell us a little bit about what he saw, what he noticed. So I'm hoping to have Kyle join me, or I can't wait to have Kyle join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings, and I hope you will join me as well. Thank you so much for your support, and also congratulations. I have given out the tickets for opening night. Congratulations to Jerry Yang for winning those tickets. He will be sitting in section 116 for opening night of Kings and Trailblazers. Thank you to everybody who signed up or who entered to win. This will not be the last time that I'm doing giveaways on Locked On Kings. Going to give away more tickets over the course of the year. Going to be doing a jersey giveaway coming up here very soon. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you for your support again. Can't wait to have you join me and Kyle Draper on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.